Hi, this is Curtis Killen. I'm not sure yet, but I think we're going to be calling the podcast, The Broker Boys.
The Broker
I'm
Boy.
not sure yet. I'm not sure. But today's guest is Mr. Robert Farrar. He's a co-owner at Fidelis Insurance. They're insurance brokers on the South Shore. And Robert and I have been friends for a very long time. We went to CJEP together, and I hope you enjoy today's podcast.
I'm a broker boy too.
Yeah, exactly.
We're the broker boys.
Yeah. And all right, Rob. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, how you doing?
Thank you for having me, man. This is awesome, man. Congrats.
Appreciate it. I appreciate it. And I think like you're one of the first people I wanted to ask, just because it's literally just going to be a conversation between us two, a normal conversation that we typically have most of the time that we're together. We've had some good ones.
We've definitely had some good ones. A lot of sometimes complaining about the insurance industry, but
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we could probably dive into some of that stuff.
Oh, we're going to
too,
dive into
but,
all of this.
No, I mean, thank you for having me on this, man. This is
My pleasure.
It's really, really cool. It's really different. You don't really see these types of things, especially in the insurance industry. It's pretty.
Yeah, that's like one thing that I kind of wanted to just like separate. It's one thing that I want to focus on. One thing, so like this is what, and I always say this. So insurance companies, if you see an ad for an insurance company, number one, you rarely see ads for commercial insurance. It's typically speaking home and car insurance, right? The market's a lot bigger. Yeah. And the advertising, I find that I don't think it's as effective as it could be. It's always just price. Like every ad is basically the same. Call us and save $400.
On the personal side, I mean, just in general, really, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, it's the same thing over and over, and I kind of wanted to have just a different approach and try and get the brand out there. And it's just a lot easier to sell products or services for anyone in any industry if someone knows your brand, and then you complement that with a call after. For example, let's say you want to get someone as a new client and they already know who you are. Your chances of closing them are going to go up drastically.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's like also, it's unfortunate that cycle's been created. I get it.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to save money, right? I mean, nobody's calling up their friends and saying, hey, guess what I just bought? The most amazing insurance policy. It's just not happening, right? So like, I get it. It's how can I save money? How can I save money? It's all the same to me. Most people don't. Some people go 25 years without even having a claim. So obviously they're trying to save money. Yeah. But it's just, you get stuck in that cycle. I mean, I think the industry kind of is stuck in that cycle a little bit, and it transfers to the clients where, okay, I'll save you $400 this year. Fine. But 2-3 years from now, you're going to be at the same spot, you know? And so, I think there's just a lack of education to the clients. Yeah. Of course, price is important, but there's so much more that's behind that. And I think the service is really, needs to be kind of emphasized a lot more to the clients.
I've always found you're very good at that. And I know you focus more on commercial insurance, but you're very good at focusing on your value proposition, as opposed to, because if it's like my old man would always tell me, if you sell it on price, you're going to lose it on price. Yeah. So if you have, and depending on what it is, like, look, it's difficult to sell a value proposition in car insurance,
100%.
but for when it comes to commercial insurance, which is kind of like, and we'll get into all this, but that's your bread and butter. It's extremely important to sell the value proposition, and it works.
Yeah. I mean, dealing with so many different types of entrepreneurs over the years, and you kind of realize that for them, their time is money. I know that sounds so cliche, but it's so true. If you're dealing with a contractor, if you're dealing with, I mean, really whatever industry it is, I mean, they have other things that they want to be focused on, right? And that's their business. So they want to be able to reach out to, whether it's Curtis, whether it's, another employee there, and say, okay, I've sent that message. I don't need to do my follow-ups. I don't need to worry that I'm not going to get an answer. He's going to take care of it. She's going to take care of whomever. And there's like a big value there, and there's a trust there. And people, I find, when they've experienced that type of uh, service, realize that they're willing to pay a premium.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree.
Limits on that, obviously.
To a point, yeah. Like if
course.
someone's paying 50 grand and they go out and get a quote and it's half price,
yeah.
I
Like, you
agree.
still need to be with like
Within range. I feel like the range, and everyone's a little different. I feel like the range, I feel like it's 15%, maybe even 20.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
You
I
know?
do. I mean, I think obviously it really depends, but yeah, I think 15% is a fair number.
Yeah.
You know, I think obviously I like to every 3 years test the market.
Yeah.
I've always told my clients that as well. I say, guys, if you're
Yeah.
thinking I'm going to be shopping you every year and we're going to have that phone call every year, it's not going to work. It's not beneficial for any of us, I'm going to burn the market for you, because there's a whole other side to this, right? And there's underwriters that are working these files. And, if they see, let's say a Fidelis file, not Fidelis as the broker, let's say I'm talking about my own insurance, for example, as for my business. If they see Fidelis passed onto their desk every year,
Yeah. They're never going to take it seriously.
not going to take it seriously.
And like there's more and more insurance companies, not all of them, but there's more and more insurance companies that track on the underwriter side. They track the closing ratio. So, and I would do the same thing as an underwriter. If I'm an underwriter and every time you send me a quote and I know you're doing it just to block the market.
On the broker side too.
Yeah. You got, there's a lot of brokers that do value that relationship with the underwriters, the insurance companies. And there's a lot of them that I find that don't.
No.
And, but you're absolutely right. In the long run, I think it's a losing proposition for yourself because you're just going to burn. No underwriter is going to want to work with you because they're going to
for
go,
yourself and the client. I mean, you're shipping out the applications every year to. It's probably falling onto the same desk as the same underwriter every year as well.
Yeah.
So what do you think they're thinking?
Yeah.
Come on.
So I just want to back up a little bit. How did you get? Well, I know how you got started in insurance, but like, can you tell us? Tell us how you got started in insurance.
For sure.
And because I remember like back in the day when we were university students. This is a funny story. So I remember when you told me this, and your dad. I think you were coming to the end of you're in university, and like you knew you weren't really going to graduate, and your dad, because he went to go give you money to pay for the semester, and he's like, I don't even know why I'm giving you this money because I know you're not going to graduate.
Yeah, I mean that definitely stung. I mean it's not something you want to be hearing from your dad, but I mean I think I kind of looked at it.
I think you dropped out the next semester.
I don't even think I finished that one. To be honest with you.
So he wasn't wrong.
Is that prorated?
But yeah, so tell us how you got started in insurance.
Well, honestly, I was in university. I mean, probably like a lot of people, I was kind of there, just like not really knowing what I was doing.
You were in urban planning, right?
Urban planning, yeah. Ask me what that is. Yeah, I'm not sure, really, but yeah. So, I mean, we were all kind of taught that. I mean, brought up on the idea that this is the path. You go to CEGEP, you go to university, finish university, you get a job.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
And that wasn't for Bobby.
No, it wasn't for Bobby at all. Like, Bobby just I don't know. I was in university. I had a hard time focusing. I couldn't. Nothing was really like hitting home for me, and it just I never did well at school.
Yeah, you were. I wasn't much better. I was marginally better, but you were
disciplined on this studying. No, you were.
And you were a horrible guy to study with.
Terrible.
Like, yeah,
you knew I didn't want to be there.
I never got anything done when I was with you.
My bad.
Don't be sorry. It's
So I don't know if we were golfing. I don't know, but I was with you and your dad was there, and we were talking about insurance. And I don't know if it was you or your dad, but one of you guys was
probably Gary.
I think it was Gary, and he was kind of like explaining what he did. I deal with all of these other businesses, and you learn about these businesses, and I was like, that's kind of cool. I mean, especially for someone like me, I know I wanted to be in business, didn't really know what business. Oh, this one I get to touch all of them.
Yeah,
and that's actually like how I thought at that moment.
Mm.
And I'll be honest, I looked, I was like, this guy seems to be living a pretty good life, seems to be all right, all right, let's try this out. And that's honestly what it was. I don't know if we were golfing. And so I was like, let's try this out. I went.
There's a lot of people I find like the two professions, insurance and real estate, are the two professions where they're typically, not always, but typically if they're not that good at school, and because these professions are never promoted in university.
No.
They promote engineering, they promote accountants,
Science side.
yeah, all that kind of stuff. And I find
which is great, but
yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, but they don't really promote this side. And I find people that don't really know what they're going to do, who aren't that strong in on the education side of things, end up going into insurance or real estate.
yeah, because a lot of those things are very technical, and
Yes.
it's like if you're not super interested and into that, I mean it's impossible to kind of make a path in that. So anyways, yeah, I went to Vanier.
Yeah.
I did a year AEC, I think it's called.
Yeah.
There. That was, to be honest with you, full time.
All right,
It
guys.
was tough, but it worked.
Had to do it. Yeah.
Had to do it.
Yeah.
It really was helpful,
Yeah.
and got that done. And my dad actually introduced me to his broker, and I started as a broker there
at Group Affair.
at Group Affair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it Affair or Afer?
I mean, us Anglos call it Afer,
Afer,
but I
yeah.
think it's Affair. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's like a
With Claude.
acronym. Yeah, with
Yeah,
Claude,
yeah. Okay.
And yeah, so I started there, and I mean, it was honestly, I think my starting salary was like, I don't know if I should be saying this.
You can say whatever you
on
want, man.
okay.
I mean, it's like
It was like $28,000 or $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
And pure, like, it was basically I don't know what the term is when they a draw. It was a draw.
Yeah.
So 30,000, but I had to make that in commission. If
Yeah.
not, like after the year, it's probably, if it wasn't working out.
Did you hit your draw the first year?
I surpassed it.
Surpassed it. Okay.
I surpassed my
Yeah.
draw the first year.
Because there's a lot of people. I mean, it's like it's like that backdrop. So if you suck at the job, or you just like you take longer to learn. Some people have a longer learning curve than others, right? So
Yeah, for sure.
the draw kind of gives that security to people that. There's some other brokers. I was speaking to one of them today, and like, man, this guy hires brokers that just like straight juice, no backdrop, straight juice, nothing. You come into
At
work,
the end of the month,
you
is
eat what you
made?
kill. You eat what you kill. Yeah.
I mean,
like,
that's
if
impressive.
it's impressive, and if you're finding the profile of person that can actually go do that, or who's like willing to do that, I mean, great, fantastic. It's a win-win
broker.
in those cases. It's just difficult to kind of find. Okay, so you went.
Yeah.
So you went to Vanier, got your degree, started working at Affair.
Yeah.
You worked there for what, 7 years? 8
9 years.
9 years.
Yeah.
And so, can you like walk us through? Because there's a lot of people that in the insurance industry that are probably going to pick up on some of these snippets and stuff like that. So for someone who's just starting out, like, is there any advice, or can you just give us some examples of, because you became at the beginning, I mean, like anything else, like you weren't as confident as you are today, and obviously you weren't as good at the job, which is not everyone's like that, right?
For sure.
But like you really knew what you were like. I would always see you, and the way you dealt with your commercial clients, you built yourself up a nice book. I think you would consider yourself, you should consider yourself a successful commercial insurance broker. So can you kind of just like talk about that during those 9 years at Afer?
Yeah, I mean, I learned a ton, and I think the great thing about being there was, honestly, it was a sink or swim type of situation, you know? Not knocking them, but that's just the situation. It was a very small firm, right? And my boss had a successful firm. He had sold that firm, and then he had this small boutique firm. So, it wasn't really perfectly geared up to kind of give you all the
Tools.
I guess the guidance,
The support,
hold your hand
Yeah.
through this process, I guess is
Yeah.
the word. So honestly, I'd say, like, whatever you're doing, you have to be consistent. If you're looking at this and you're saying, well, I'm gonna allocate a couple hours a week to selling, you gotta dive in fully. You have to give it your all, and you got to give yourself around 12 to 18 months. That's full time, 12 to 18 months of pure consistency, focused 100% on that.
And when you're saying consistency, so can you just like walk us through what a typical day would be? So like when you're saying consistent, does that mean
Yes.
come in at the same time? You do your follow-ups,
Yeah.
prospect. Like, what is that?
So even like I would walk in at the beginning, honestly, when I started, I didn't know what to do
Yeah.
because I didn't have a book.
Yeah.
I wasn't provided a book, right? So when I say book, I mean, I wasn't provided a list of clients. So it's not like I started with, let's say, $500,000 of clients to manage. It was zero. So you can imagine what those first 3 months was. I didn't have any clients,
You're cold calling.
you
You're
know?
cold calling.
That's it. So
Yeah.
so essentially you're cold calling, and it's, I know this is tough for a lot of people. You know, I guess it's maybe a little bit embarrassing. I don't know, but you can't be afraid to work your natural market.
Yeah.
You know, what's the worst that's gonna happen? Someone's gonna tell you no, right?
And
don't have
and
to
I
be
find
too pushy with it, but
I find people, even when you call them, like let's say you call, like the first people you're gonna call are the people like within your circle, right? More or less. And even the people that at the beginning, especially when you just start your career, even if they say no at the beginning, the fact you're kind of calling them and still, it's like you're still letting them know that you do that. And a lot of times, because I get it too. Like, let's say you're a 24, 25-year-old kid and they call you up. They're not taking you seriously. And like you just started, and in their head,
50-year-old
like,
business owner for the past 20 years.
they're like, look
or-
at this.
yeah.
They're like, you know what, kid? Like, good for you, but like, I bet you anything that this fucking kid's not gonna be working in this industry in another year. And so like that kind of, but if you keep doing it and you keep at it, to your point, and be consistent, a lot of times they come back.
They do come back, and you'd be surprised how many people are willing to give you a chance. That's the thing that was really surprising with me, is that there's people that, you know, it's not always the people that you would assume. It's the random person that is looks at you and says, you know what, I like you, I want to give you a chance, and you build on that.
Good feeling.
It's a great feeling, honestly, and yeah, that's it. Work your natural market, be consistent, and just be fully focused. And I think a lot of it's hard, you know, because maybe your peer group, a lot of people are doing better than you at that time, but you
And
have
also
to stick to.
And would you? Because we always talk about this, and I think it's like this in any industry, especially amongst men. People like to pump their chest up and exaggerate about how good they are at their job. You know what I mean? So you're going into all these circles, you're going into these meetings and stuff.
Everyone's the best.
Yeah, I sold this, I sold that, I'm so good. And a lot of times I feel like they're full of shit. Maybe not full of shit. They exaggerate.
Yeah.
And it can make you feel, you're like, fuck, I'm not even close to where these guys are at.
Hard. It's like, crap, I'm making $30,000 this year. Like, holy crap, this person's making 3 times what I am. Like, how am I gonna do this? You know? I mean, for sure, man. I mean, that's yeah, definitely.
It's like, what's that thing from American Pie, where they go back in the original movie? If you ask a guy how many people he slept with, you always divide it by 3. And if you ask a girl how many guys they've slept with, multiply it by 3.
But it's so true, you know? And I was a little naive at the beginning because maybe I was being a little too honest with everybody. And it took a little bit of time to realize, okay, no, like the math doesn't even check out, you know? Like, but then, I mean, you know, put your blinders on, stay focused to what your plan is. Forget about everyone else. I know that's easier said than done because there are a lot of peer pressure going on and everything, and just got to stick to it, you know. And you got to be why it's so important to stay focused is because you're going to make a lot of mistakes, but it's important to pick up on the mistakes you're making. You know, we've all had those bad phone calls, you know.
Yeah, they're not
a
fun.
sales call. We've all had the bad
fun,
sales
yeah.
call. And you're like, oh, man, like that guy or girl, whomever, they took me to the cleaners, you know, like, you know, either wasted your time, whatever. It's just, it happens, and you learn from that and you move on. And yeah, I mean, I definitely, I had, I'll say my old boss too. He was a good mentor. I mean, he was very good with his commercial insurance.
Yeah, you always talked about that with Claude.
Yeah.
Like he was. It seems as if he was very personable, very hands-on with the clients, I guess is the word. Very, very, very hands-on, and he knew what he was talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. Like
Great commercial insurance.
Yeah.
I definitely,
Yeah.
I can, for sure.
And always he's always like dressed to the nines. Yeah, he always looks good. He's got the hair. Bonjour, Robert.
But I picked that up from him too. I mean, maybe it's not a show right now, but like,
I think you look pretty good right now.
That's a nice turtleneck.
You like it?
Yeah, I like the hair too. You look like Fresh from the NHL.
I even shaved today. I never shave. I'm like, you know what? Got a podcast today. I'm gonna have to do it.
I like it. Oh, it looks good, man. But yeah, no, I mean, I definitely like picked that up from him. I mean, like it's important. You wanna be presentable, you know. I mean,
Yep.
the appearance, it's that first impression, you know, when you're going to see a client, and you gotta can't walk in there, and you know they want to feel important, and I think it's not about you. When you're going to see that client, they want to feel like you're taking that meeting seriously. So that's what, you know, what is that? That's come prepared, be on time, and look good.
So you mentioned that, or
Look good.
It's important to look good, and when you, it's like, what does GSP always say? When you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, you do good. Something like that.
You nailed it.
But so okay, so there's like that. I want to have it because I know you're a watch guy. You appreciate.
I appreciate them.
appreciate
I don't.
watches.
Yeah.
But like, what?
A watch collector, but I appreciate nice watches for sure.
What's your opinion on going to see? Here's my question. So you go see, because sometimes you have these kids. I don't call them kids, but they're young. They're in the 30s, and they're going to see someone older than them, and they have a nicer watch than the prospect they're going to see. What's your opinion on that?
I think it. I mean, I think it's okay. Honestly, I think it's okay. I think it depends. You know, if you're showing up with a $30,000 watch on your wrist and you're 25 years old, I might have a little bit of some questions.
That's my question.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't even know if I would have questions. I don't know. I think flat, if it's too, for me, I'm always, I don't like flash. I'm not a very flashy guy, and I don't want to be doing, maybe that sounds bad to say that. I'm going to say it. When I see too much flash, it kind of steers me the other way.
Yeah,
you know?
it rubs you the wrong way.
Maybe not. It doesn't rub me the wrong way. I think it's just more like okay, like what's there? You know? Are you trying too hard? You know? Did you spend your whole year's paycheck just to kind of prove a point on something?
See, like my opinion on that, and again, to each their own. But
Yeah.
my opinion on that, and this is why I always have, like, I don't appreciate when you see
Well, it's the car thing too. Right?
Yeah.
Guy shows up in a $80,000 car and he's 25 and he's just starting. It's like,
or like the a lot of real estate agents.
yeah. And so the flip to that is, you know, I've heard the flip, right? You've heard the flip too.
Yeah.
Well, it's like they're gonna think I'm successful now.
Yeah.
Maybe not though.
But the point I'm just trying to make is that, for if you go see, so let's say you're a commercial insurance broker, you're going to see a business owner to get their insurance. Typically speaking, this guy or this woman, they're not dumb, and they can see right through that. And so if they see some kid showing up in a watch that's nicer than the watch that they're wearing, I feel like it just kind of, I know this is it's like a hypothetical question, but for me, if I'm like 50 and I see a kid show up with a watch nicer than mine, I'm probably gonna go like, okay, like.
But there's a limit on that too, though, right?
Yeah, you're right.
If they've got like a $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 watch, I don't think you're gonna dive too deep into that.
You're right.
I think
You're
it's
right.
if they showed up and they got a friggin' $30,000 Rolex on, you may have like
Yeah.
a little bit like,
Go,
okay.
Yeah. It's interesting though how like watches are. It's like watches and cars. It's kind of like, it's a status symbol
Yeah.
for men. It's definitely a status symbol.
Yeah. And I mean, look, if you can afford it, and it's so, you know, do whatever you want. I mean, for me, it's just, okay, are you trying to kind of
Yeah.
play in a
Are you trying to fake it till you make it?
That's it. Yeah. You're trying to fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you and I think we're very similar on that.
Yeah.
But then there's the opposite too, right? Like if you show up in a, you know, to be honest with you, I used to show up to meetings by bus. Okay, like I had a client that paid millions of dollars in premium, like one client.
Yeah.
And I bus metro to that meeting.
Was it downtown at least?
It was downtown.
Okay, so you can get away with it
I've been to the South Shore
on a bus.
on the bus, West Island. Imagine that. I'm waiting at the friggin' 211. You know,
In a suit.
in a suit. I'm like, this is tough. But I mean, that, so like looking back at it, I was like, maybe like I was pushing like the conservative side a little bit too much there, but I think there's as a salesperson, I think the takeaway would be there's a balance. You know, like if you're showing up and you look like a slob and you know, unfortunately, people are gonna take away a first impression on that, and the impression they're gonna take is that maybe you're not good at your job.
Yeah.
You know. Now on the opposite side, it's like you said. You know, if you show up and your whole outfit costs you $60,000, including a watch, and you're 20 years younger, maybe your whole year's salary's on you, you know? Like, find that middle, like, don't outflash your clients, personally, at least.
I agree. Like, just show up, look good, look presentable. You don't have to be wearing a $10,000 suit. Just look good, look presentable, and basically just you want to let them know if you're taking the meeting seriously, which you should be. Show up and look like you're taking the meeting seriously. That's pretty much it. So here, I want to go back to, okay, so you worked at Group Farrar, and then you recently went off on your own, and you started, so you're
Fidelis.
co-owner of Fidelis Insurance. And so
Yes,
tell us how you got into starting your own business. And again, I've told you this many times, but like, congrats on that. That's badass.
Thanks.
That you went off on your own. And I know that it took a little longer than you anticipated, but you got it done. And so walk us through that.
Oh man, like I think I maybe this sounds a little bit egotistical, but I had outgrown where I was working. Probably like for the past 4 years, like I should have left there like after year 5, year 6. And there's no knock on there, you know. There was a lot of help there, but I should have left. I had outgrown it, and I stayed there. And it was time for me to make a change. I knew what my next change was. I was an entrepreneur before there. I needed to do it again. I don't like taking orders from other people. I know that sounds bad, but it's the truth. Yeah. And so I was like, you know what? I'm taking this risk. I'm going to go out on my own. And this is during COVID. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I don't know, because I've been working at this place. So my client list is tied up at this firm, right? I mean, there's non-competes. I mean, there's businesses need to protect their ass, right? So I'm like, oh my God, I've been working here for 9 years. All of my clients, which I worked my natural market, are stuck here. Not a bad thing, but it's just like, how do I navigate this? So I told my boss, I said, listen, this is what I'm going to do. And he says, okay. So we worked out an agreement that I would buy back my book, but I still didn't know where I was going and what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing. So while all this is going on in my head during COVID, I get a call from a broker that I went to school with at Vanier. And we're talking, and he seems a little bit, I guess, uninterested in the industry anymore. So I said, hey, are you leaving? And he goes, yeah, I think I'm selling.
And he had taken it over from his father.
Taking it over from his father. He was actually 2 years younger than me. I'm 33, so he's 31 now. He was younger then. I said,
did his father give it to him or sell it to him?
I'm not sure. I can't speak on that. Yeah. I really don't know. I have no idea what the arrangement is with them. And so, yeah, I asked him, are you leaving? Like, what's going on here? And he's like, yeah, I am. I said, can I buy you? Listen, I have no office. I have no employees. Like, the ball's on me to be like, can I buy you? You know what I mean? But in my head, I was like, if he's selling, I'm going to figure this the fuck out. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure it the fuck out. So he says, why? Are you starting I said, yeah, I'm starting my own firm. So anyways, we start getting into negotiations, myself and him.
It's interesting. So you started during COVID. You want to buy this guy.
Yeah.
The negotiations started.
Yeah.
The negotiations lasted what?
7 months? Yeah.
7 months.
7 months. Yeah. Like, it was
And
long.
did you have a lot of help? Okay. So when it comes to negotiate, because this is one of the topics that I actually want to touch on. And so basically for like, when it comes down to acquisitions.
Yeah.
I've never made an acquisition, personally, or KBD Insurance.
Yeah.
We've never made an acquisition. You made an acquisition, and there is like, I feel like there's like a pretty, I know there's an art to it, and it comes down to like financial leverage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But
yeah,
can you walk us through going through, or how the acquisition went? Like, was it complicated? Securing the financing? Was it?
So there was two, right? There was I mean, one of them I was buying my book, but it was still an acquisition. I'm still doing a business deal with another brokerage firm.
Yeah.
Technically, right? So, and both of them were very different. And so, there definitely is, it's an art of reading people and kind of understanding what, because everyone's agenda sometimes, like there's egos involved,
Yeah.
nobody wants to get taken for a ride. Nobody wants to get taken advantage of. Sometimes people are just pumping their chest, and you need to know like how far are you willing to kind of like bend, and what your like, this is it.
What was the multiple you paid?
So I paid 3.3. Yeah, and then the other on my book it was 2. It was really good. Yeah. So there was some. Listen, I think I did some good negotiations on my end, and I think at the same time, the broker selling to me knew that his clients were going to be taken care of, and I think that was very important for him. So I was able to probably knock off 0.5 just based on that, just pushing that home.
Because it's like this is I want to stay on this topic a little bit.
Yep.
It's like for people that are going to listen, and I feel like this is going to be good for, because again, like in the network that we're in, we're in insurance. It's a little bit boring, but for people in insurance, it's not that boring.
Yeah.
The and I read a lot on this, and I'm trying to inform myself on this a lot. The acquisition market is insane right now in Canada, and so not only do you have Intact Insurance financing a lot of these acquisitions, you have a lot of private equity coming into the game as well. So you have BlackRock, you have KKR. KKR is like this badass guy from New York.
But are they dealing with bigger ones?
What do you mean?
Like, are they doing small, medium-sized acquisitions? Or
No,
do
these
they want
guys
the big
like
ones?
I'll give you an example. So Westland Insurance out west, they're in Ontario, they're in Alberta, they're in the Maritimes as well, I believe.
Yeah.
BlackRock secured $1.2 billion. I don't know.
Capital?
I have no idea how much equity they have in the company, but they gave $1.2 billion in capital for acquisitions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, so now they're just kind of like dispersing that.
Yeah. So it was like,
Mm.
and there's this other article I read the other day on Insurance Business Magazine or whatever that website is, and the I forget the guy's name, but the owner at Mitch Insurance, and he gave a really good analogy, and I like this analogy. He basically said that the market right now, it's kind of like, it's like a poker game. So we're at the beginning of you go to a poker tournament, there's tables everywhere, and as time goes by, a day, 2 days, 3 days, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. If you're going up against a guy who has a massive stack of chips and you're on your last legs, you're not going to be able to beat him. And so the analogy you made was the companies, the brokers right now that have this capital, they're amassing all these resources together, and they're basically, long story short, it's getting tougher and tougher for small boutique insurance brokers to compete against these big guys. And like, what's your opinion on that? Like, we can focus on this. It's interesting because this is happening before our eyes, in front of us for insurance. And it's also, and the last point I'll just say is just like, the insurance companies not typically, this is how it works. Insurance companies, they have 3 sources of revenue. They have the underwriting profit, they have the money they make on the cash and the investments. And the third way, which is the most consistent and the most stable, are their investments in insurance brokers. And a lot of other insurance companies like Economical
Are seeing that, and they want to get involved.
Exactly.
Yeah. So where does that go? I honestly, like,
Where's this going? Yeah.
I mean, as right now a boutique broker, like, obviously I want to grow. I don't really personally see it going anywhere really positive for boutique brokers.
Can you elaborate on that?
I mean, the big are just going to get bigger, right? A bigger broker. I mean, how many I mean, there's big brokerage firms out there, let's say 60, 100 million. Some of these guys are doing friggin' 3, 4, 5 more acquisitions a year. So what are they doing? They're swallowing up the small guys, right? And the thing is that as we, the baby boomers are leaving, right? So and that makes up a lot of the owners of these small, medium-sized brokerage firms. That's where they fall in, right? They're baby boomers. So for them, if they don't have an exit strategy, or they're just going to sell to the highest bidder.
Of
right?
course.
Because they're done. That's it. They want out.
Of course.
So
yeah.
if I've secured if I got John Financing behind me, who's basically told me, you tell me how much you need and you got it. Well, I'm going into those meetings. I'm just throwing you into my machine. Maybe I'll overpay for you. Maybe I'll save all of that bullshit negotiations that you're gonna have to go through with a small broker, and I'll just write you the check. This guy's tired. The baby boomer's tired. She's worked however many years. Oh man, no problem. Let's go.
But at the end of the day, I understand what you're saying, and it's like it's something that, you know, it sounds like you're not like a massive fan of it, and a lot of people who are not big fans of it. But at the end of the day, this is what's happening, and it's not going to stop.
No,
so
it's
it's basically,
not.
and like when
adapt or die.
And when private equity and like Intact behaves as private equity, when private equity comes into a market, they're not coming into a market for 5 or 10%.
No, they're coming into.
They want 15% plus.
That's it. And they're not coming in for little crumbs.
And so the fact of the matter, so this is what's happening. What's your mentality knowing that this is the business environment?
Adapt.
But can you elaborate on that? Like adapt how? Like what does that entail?
I mean, it entails just like understanding where the market's going, and that's where it's going. You have to at this point, it's like whether it's find ways to make acquisitions to get yourself to a point where you can become a player. And that's kind of where my mindset is, you know.
So you would love to acquire.
Yeah, 100%. I'm constantly this is new because I mean, look, I had to understand how to run a business first. You know, I can't just open a business, start a business, and then be like, well, do you even know how to close your year? Do you even know how to like run your, you know what I mean? Like, buddy, like nobody's gonna take me seriously.
Yeah.
So now that I've done a year and a half, and I know people probably listening or watching, that's no time, but I do feel very confident in understanding the back end stuff because I already know the broker stuff. And so, yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah, you have to adapt or you will be left behind.
Yeah, that's always a point. What's the saying? Adapt or die.
Adapt or die, yeah. And it's constantly fun. You have to be as a business owner, you have to be constantly thinking of ways, how am I going to scale this?
Yeah.
How? Because now that's the world we're in, man. Yeah. We're not like, okay, nobody's knocking it. If you want to stay a small boutique firm, that's fine. Run a lean firm, be profitable and great. But eventually the sharks are going to come for you.
And like that's another thing too. It's like, and I totally agree. If you want to stay a small boutique shop, whether it's in insurance or anything else, that's fine. Don't complain when you can't compete anymore.
Exactly.
You know, that's I don't have any sympathy for guys or girls that basically do that and
then it's everyone else's fault but their own. Well, did you not see the signs? They're there. They're there.
Yeah. And it's very interesting though, because like I just want to make a comment. So we have like in Quebec, so in particular on the home and car insurance side, the market's dominated by Intact and the direct insurers. Right, so Desjardins and Beneva, those are the big three. My prediction in 5 to 10 years down, those are going to be the only three insurers in Quebec for home and car insurance. That's where I see this going.
Yeah.
Commercial insurance is a little different. But what's interesting in Ontario, because like, you know, I'm learning a lot about the market in Ontario and stuff like that. The insurance broker presence is a lot bigger than what it is here. They're a lot stronger than what they are here in Quebec. They're still fine. Intact still has their hands and there's still private equity. There's still a lot of financing going on for acquisitions, but the broker.
Why is that though? You'd be able to answer that better than I, because I don't know, but I'm curious as to, because you'd think the market would be equal, if not bigger, and that you'd think the insurers would want to get more involved in that. Why is it that the brokers were able to kind of like maintain that?
I think part of it has to do with the fact that there's more regulation when it comes to car insurance. That's definitely part of it. Like the regulation that takes part on the insurance companies, it's a lot harder to. It's a different ball game. I mean, in Quebec, it's just like if the insurance companies want, let's say they're not profitable and they need to put the rates up, they can do it the next day. Whereas in Ontario, they have to file, they have to go through the Financial Services Commission, I think it's called. But anyways, they basically have to ask permission. Hey, can I increase my rates on my car insurance? that's not
that easy.
It's not a week process. This is months at a time to basically increase the rates. So it's just a different market.
Red tape.
Yes, on the insurance company side, there's definitely a lot more red tape. But like, just to kind of like, I just want to focus on the acquisition part. It's that, like right now, I don't know. It's like, I see where this is going. I think it's going to end up. Big players are coming. I think it's
like, if
a small shot, you're not going to be able to survive, or even
I don't think you even be able to. Okay, so this is my opinion.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, go for it.
Going through my acquisition and seeing, like, first of all, I mean, you have to factor in accounting and legal fees. All right. So right away, you better have 50 grand at least on the side, right? I'd be pretty confident on saying no matter the size of the acquisition, you're spending that. So, if you're a small firm, you're going into these negotiations, you're counting every dollar you're spending, right? If you're a big guy coming in there with that bankroll behind you, you're able to kind of just bulldoze through some of these deals, right?
And sometimes they don't even care because they have those people in house. Some companies, if you're big enough, like they have lawyers in house to help with these negotiations and stuff like that.
So if you're sitting there and you got the seller, right? And you got two options. You got big broker or small boutique broker. This guy, it's going to take you 8-9 months of negotiations, back and forth, blah, blah, blah. Or this guy, who are you going to decide on, right? If you don't really, it's not a knock either. It's just at the end of the day, you're retiring. You don't really feel like getting into these big negotiations. I think pretty obvious who you're going to pick, no?
All I can say is it's going to be very interesting over the next couple of years to see where the market's going. And I don't think it's like it's as a result of no one's done anything wrong. I just think that, like, typically in any market, you're going to have a couple players that are going to get really, really, really big, and they're going to have all the rest. And I think that's kind of just where we're heading. It's what's the term? The Pareto principle. It's like the 80-20 rule. Yeah. And over time, it compounds and compounds and compounds. It's just kind of like a natural thing to happen, really. That's kind of where I see this going. But here, let's switch gears a bit here. So starting your own company, and again, so we're calling this the broker.
The broker boys.
I don't know if we're gonna call it that or not, but like
the broker. Well, because the other boy might not, or woman might not be a broker.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the broker boy and plus.
yeah. That's why I'm still not fully convinced. But if we have, again, like the podcast, it's like a raw business podcast to talk about it, and like the actual. Yeah. People aren't here to boast about, oh, these are all my accomplishments. It's just like real things. So you're running a business right now.
Yeah.
I talk to you on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Well, what's it like running a business? And like
dude, like the beginning was a shit show, man. Like,
okay, honestly, let's get into this.
Like, it was a shit show. Like, honestly, like I felt like after I finished those acquisitions, I needed a vacation. But it's like, no, you can't take a vacation. You just fucking bought 2 companies.
You're just starting.
You're just starting now. That was actually your vacation.
Yeah.
Now you got to fucking run a business. Figure it out. And who the fuck am I turning to? There's nobody. It's you.
Yeah.
So let's go. And so that honestly, man, like it was really overwhelming. And then
because you were good, just to add some context to this, because you, in terms of being an insurance broker, you know what you're doing.
Yeah,
it was on the running a company side, the administration, all that kind of stuff that you were well, you'd never done it before, that you were struggling.
No, I had no, like I didn't like dealing with the AMF, the government, like all that stuff, like like setting up the softwares that you needed, finding an office.
What's your opinion on the software?
Ooh, man. Let me tell you, these guys, they just make up prices. Really,
honestly, I'm not even gonna say the name, but a lot of people, it's like sometimes I just want to say fuck these guys, and man, they charge so much money and they have a monopoly on the market and they know it and they just gouge you, and it's upsetting sometimes. But it's like,
really upsetting.
And we all feel the same way. For people that work in insurance,
it's like either the bigger you get, well, your bill just becomes like absurd, but they don't even, like, even if you're small, your bill is, I mean, man, just the initial startup cost was crazy. The craziest thing for me is that you go from, how do you chop your price in half after like 2 phone calls?
I guess they're seeing what they can get.
Yeah, I guess they definitely went fishing.
But so running it is like
Yeah.
so let me ask you this: do you enjoy running a business?
Yes. 100%.
And what do you enjoy about it?
I think it's the freedom, man. I am in control of my own destiny, whatever that may be.
And if you want to leave on an afternoon, like let's say the week's done, you can go.
Whatever.
You can.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like you got to work way harder and you got to take home a lot more shit. But it's my freedom. It's mine. And I like to know at the end of the day that it's mine. I know maybe that sounds greedy or whatever, but it's mine.
All, yeah.
This is mine. This is my baby. This is something that I am working on, and I really appreciate that feeling, you know. And those stressful days or whatever, it's the back end of it is that I'm very happy to have that something that's mine.
And what would you say are the parts that you don't like?
Honestly, sometimes it's just so I have a partner and he's a great guy and we really complement ourselves. But it's also tough having a partner. Like sometimes we just don't see eye to eye. You know?
The guest we had on last week, so Patrick McGuigan, identical position what you guys are, like basically partner, co-partner, 50-50 on the deal. And but we got into that. But yeah, go on.
Yeah. So I mean, sometimes I find those discussions to be tough where it's like in your head it's so black and white. It's like so clear, what we need to do, and then your partner sees it a completely different way, and then it's like a stalemate on this, and then you're like, what are we doing here? Are we just gonna keep arguing about this? It's like, let's just make a decision to move on. And it's like we do have those tough discussions and those tough, but at the end of the day, like I trust him, he trusts me, and like we get through it. And yeah, it's tough having a partner. It definitely is.
But
sometimes.
you would say the pros outweigh the cons.
Pros definitely outweigh the cons. 100%. That's for sure. What else? I mean, there's a lot of like.
Well, here I want to stay on this a little bit. So, what would you say? Because you said that you guys complement each other very well. So, what would you say is your strength, and then what would you say is Andre's strength?
Andre is much more of he's more
the schmoozer, I think.
He's great with the insurance companies. Yeah. Great.
Yeah. He's a good schmoozer.
A great schmoozer.
Yeah, he is.
Unbelievable.
He is. He's good at it.
I'm a terrible schmoozer.
You've been schmoozing me all day, baby.
All right, you got me. No, but like honestly, like he just knows how to talk to the insurance companies. How to do. I don't. I try. It's
not your shtick.
No, like you put me in a room with like 200 people. Like I'm sorry, like I can't operate that. He can.
Yeah.
He's very. He's I guess more polished. I'm a little rough around the edges, you know. So like when he's talking to like an employee. He's better at that. He instead of being too direct and saying he can like deal with it.
So he's a really good communicator.
Yes, much better than me. Yeah.
And then so we'll call it. And I would agree. I know Andre quite well, not as well as you. I know him quite well though. I would definitely agree. He's a good communicator. And what would you say is your strength?
I think I'm on the brokerage side, like I understand the business side of the industry that we're in better. And I think I understand the financial side better. So I think like understanding like the financials of running a business, like your expenses, how to generate profit out of this. And then like on the insurance, like understanding the actual insurance products, I'd say those are my two
big strengths. This is it's something very interesting, and I find it's like a common theme in a lot of businesses that are being run. Is basically you always have like a numbers guy or a technical guy or whatever you want to call it, but someone who's more like looking at the numbers, calculating everything, going out and getting the business, and then an operations guy. And like so many businesses have this.
Much easier way to say it is the way he said it. Sorry.
It's like but there's so many guys that have operations, and managing people is it's so important.
Tough, man.
It's tough. Well, for someone like Andre, I bet you it's not that tough, because it's just that's what he's good at.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe when he looks at like a balance sheet or he's looking at an income statement or whatever, like I'm just pulling this out of my ass, but
Yeah.
maybe that's not as clear to him. He can't see the numbers as easily.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So sometimes, and you gotta put people like what they're good at, and like you gotta put people in positions for what their strengths are.
Yeah.
And the thing about like just running a business and being a good owner or a good business person is like being able to recognize that and realize that, and basically put people. You're like, the way I try and look, the way I always compare it, it's like if you're running a business, I feel like playing the orchestra, or you're quarterbacking everything, and you're always trying to like put people in different positions. But that's one thing too that you've always been good at. You're a really good delegator. And even though you might not be the best communicator, because like I wouldn't say you're a bad communicator. You're just like, you're a little bit too blunt for some people.
Yes.
And some people don't like that. But
Rubs them the wrong way.
Yeah. But in terms of delegation, in any time I've always like, remember Perfect Cuts? Can we go on a tangent? Can we talk about Perfect Cuts for a bit, please? Can we please talk about Perfect Cuts? This just popped in my head. I wasn't going to talk about it today. Let's talk about Perfect Cuts.
Dude, you know what's hilarious is that Perfect Cuts, I had a car with my truck with no registration and no insurance. Now I'm an insurance broker. What the fuck?
What this is what, 2010?
Yeah, so I started that with Eric, a buddy of ours.
Yeah.
18, 17? Maybe
17,
18.
I think you were 18.
I'm 33, so I don't know.
Yeah.
What the math is on that.
But for everyone here, I'm just gonna just like a brief introduction. So for everyone, like Perfect Cuts, what it was, it's like
hair salon.
Yeah, Rob was always the type of guy like, I'm never gonna work for anybody. He's always had that attitude. So he started a landscaping and grass mowing company one summer, and we're like, oh, cool, man. Like, what's the name of it? And they called it Perfect Cut.
We had business cards and flyers.
But he was good, and one thing that he did. So basically, and this is just to a compliment, and this kind of pertains to the fact that you were good at delegating. So at the beginning, what he did was you would get. I remember this because you even asked me, and I did it for you as well. So you go door to door. And basically, at each house, you go, hi, can we give you a quote to basically cut your grass? And you came up with the scheme. I don't remember what it was, but you measured the width times the length. And let's say it's 500 square feet or whatever. I'm just pulling numbers out of my ass. It's going to be, it's this much per square foot. This is the quote. And you would give, and for every lead you got, and you would pay the people for like the leads that they got. But that's good delegation. That's good.
Well, and there needs to be an incentive.
I agree. Anyways, I'm hijacking this, but to just tell us some. I want to tell us some funny stories about Perfect Cuts. I want to hear this.
Yeah, I mean, dude, we like Eric and I we did this, and it was just like, I mean, I guess like we were looking at P&Ls, right? Like profits and loss, like trying to figure but the way we looked at it was like, okay, these are expenses, as long as like our revenue is and our expenses, and like. We just need to have enough profit so that we could
go to the bar.
Exactly. That's it. And we'd get it. We'd count our money and say, okay. And we'd just go to the bar and piss it all away. And the other thing is that like, we just didn't want to work on other people's hours. I mean, it didn't sometimes, I mean, anyways, but we, look, we had our truck. We didn't have any registration or any insurance. I mean, at 18,
no brakes.
I should have known better, but I guess I didn't. And anyways, yeah. So like we did that, and I mean, we took on jobs maybe we probably shouldn't have taken on.
Not probably. There was a lot of jobs you should not have taken on.
But it's pretty impressive to think people would trust you. You know what I mean? You tell someone you're a student.
Yeah.
They're not afraid.
I vividly remember this, and this was by the time Mark was there too, and we walked into. So I'm hanging out with you. And you had a meeting. This is hilarious. He had a meeting to go give a quote on like a pretty big pavé uni job, like to basically go do like everything. Like it was a big job. And they're like, you want to tag along? And I'm like, what? Like, yeah, just come in. Don't worry about it. I'm like, okay. So we walk into this house. I don't know where the fuck we are. I don't know who these people are. And he's like, just sit there and nod and everything. Like, that's what we're at. This guy is pitching to get a private uni job. It's like a $50,000 job, and he's pitching to them basically, well, this is what we're gonna do. This is like the design. This is what I'm thinking. And the lady there's like, oh yeah, I love that. That's a great idea. And she's like, well, you guys are all professionals, and she's looking at me, and I have no idea. Yeah. That was so
man.
good. It was so good.
It's a good
That was
time.
so good.
We definitely, but I mean, like that's like, but I learned a lot in terms of like how to sell,
Yes.
like
Yes.
we built that business off door to door.
Yep.
And I've had conversations with some other landscaper guys, and like we kind of laughed about that because they did the exact same thing, and like what it is, man. And whether it's insurance, real estate, anything sales, I mean, you gotta bring it back to the basics,
Yeah.
and like that's
Let's get back to Fidelis.
yeah.
Question I ask everyone: what's your vision for the company? Let's get like yeah. I was gonna give a timeline on it. Forget it. No. What's your vision on the company? For the company, excuse me.
For the company,
Yeah.
honestly,
Where do you
like,
where do you see this going?
yeah, like I just want to I want to boost up on I want to hire. I want to bring in 3 people next year. At least that's what I'd like to do.
And 3
really
people.
focus on
that's
the
for. So this is like, by the way, a free.
so one on the back end.
I'm gonna
one-
charge you $30. This is like for advertising for
is it
hiring
if
advertising.
anyone's looking, I can give my number. And
You can text me direct. It's 514.
Send your CV to this email.
Yeah.
But we're looking for these are the 3 positions we're looking for. So yeah, like that's what we want to do is we really want to do that, and we really want to focus on the organic growth.
Yep.
It's time. The first year was really just kind of like steadying the ship,
Learn.
Yeah.
Make sure everything's.
sort out the back end, understand how to take care of that, so we can properly delegate. And now it's focus on the organic growth, build that up, get in the 3 people that we want.
And the 3 people you want to get are going to be
Back end, personal lines, commercial lines.
Okay, but mostly on the sales side or the service side? Or
2
both?
sales for
2
personal,
sales, 1 service.
Personal, it's service,
Okay.
service, and a little bit of sales.
Okay.
Commercial's pure sales.
Okay.
And back end is just take care of all the back end.
To have someone like that's the question you called me for the other day for the lesson, not the lesson, the training that I won't name the name because they fucking just rinse everyone on.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start I'm actually might start doing those as well, just because.
How ridiculous the price is.
Oh yeah.
But okay, but like for because you're talking about like hiring and stuff like that, and that's fine. But I'm saying like, what's the because when people
Like
when people want to come and work for a company, and I think that like this is something that's very important, for any company, people, and for employee retention, they want to feel as if they're helping contribute to something bigger than themselves. They want to feel as if they're contributing to like the growth.
Yeah. So
of-
if you don't
of a
know the
company.
identity, how are you? How's
Yeah,
anyone else
what's your
supposed to-
vision? Like, how would you basically, when you're trying to, because it's one thing to basically say like, oh, hey,
Because I don't look at ourselves as becoming like a call center. I don't see ourselves as really like pushing too much on the personal line side. I really see us working to be a commercial lines insurance broker.
niche.
Yeah.
Like niche, this is what you do and you do it very well.
Yeah.
Okay. And like niche.
And we
niche,
service our clients. There's a quality of service that we're always going to give to our clients. And that's really how I see ourselves as a brokerage. That's how I've always kind of operated myself. And so I can lead by example with that as well. And to really kind of build on that end. I don't see ourselves as turning into a personal lines kind of machine. We're really just focused on niche commercial lines.
Hands-on.
Build on that. Yeah.
hands-on people. That's a good answer. And would you like, how many, 'cause we've talked about this before as well. And you just said like you're not looking to get like a big machine. So like what does that entail? Would that be 20 employees? Would that be 30 employees?
I mean, I hope it's 150 employees, to be honest with you. But I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, if I'd like to make at least one acquisition in the next 3 years that can kind of fit into that, to kind of also help bring us to the other level and really focus on tailoring our organic growth for what we're looking for, which is, mid-sized commercial risks. and then build on that to get into to large commercial. That's where I see our brokerage firm, you know. And then the personal side is really, yeah, you know, our natural market, the area we're in, as well as dealing with our clients, commercial clients, personal side. I don't see us pushing too hard on soliciting in the personal side.
Okay, dude. Okay, we have to talk about this right now. Fucking Kanye.
Dude.
Yo, what the fuck?
Dude, I think he's got serious mental health problems, man. Like, I honestly think because, you know, the thing, I knew a person. My wife knew a person who had a major traumatic experience in his life and became schizophrenic because it was within, like, I don't know if it was it was in his genes somewhere in the family. Trauma can fuck you up. I think, dude, massive amounts of stress, trauma with his mother, all of this shit. This guy is sick.
Oh, he's definitely something.
And he's too many yes men. Too many people are getting paid around him, and it's been like that for what, 20 years with this guy? Does whatever the fuck he wants, right? And if you're getting $500,000 a year from this guy, are you gonna fuck your bag up? No, you're not.
Oh, yes, sir. Right away.
Sure, yes, of course.
But just great,
away,
like,
but they're all talking behind his back for sure.
And you know it's something when you're on an Alex Jones podcast and
fucking mask on,
and Alex Jones is the one going, I think Hitler killed a lot of Jews, like correcting. You know, there's an issue with stuff like that. But anyways, this is a business podcast. We'll talk.
But it's sad. It's sad because people are trying to now like flip this where it's like, is it like some form of like he's just trying to get out of his contracts and this is like him.
I don't think he would do that to his kids.
That is a massive cry for him.
I don't hate him at all. I feel
bad.
I feel bad.
Yeah.
I feel bad for him.
Because his kids are gonna. Yeah. This is all over the internet, man. That stuff doesn't just get disappeared.
This is something that this event, I think is gonna. Well, this is like part of like culture. This. I'm gonna remember this when I'm 85 years old. So right now, I don't see the hard market. Hard market for those of you that don't know, it's basically like just insurance premiums are really expensive.
Going on for how long now?
It's been going on for a while, and in some parts of the insurance sector, it's going to continue to go on.
Yeah.
So basically, do you have any advice for like? Because again, one of your strengths, I would definitely agree with you, is the fact that you're a good commercial insurance broker in the sense that you're very good at communicating the message. You're very good at being transparent with your clients. I guess is one way I would put it.
For sure.
How is there any advice that you can give to other commercial insurance brokers that are trying to navigate this hard market? Like what are you doing that you
education, man. Educate them, man. And don't wait till 2 weeks before your renewal.
Can you give us an example? So what would you say to a client to educate them?
Okay, so if you know the industry that your client is in a hard market, and like you know that from what you're seeing, the prices are going to keep going up. The markets are going to keep shrinking and shrinking for that type of industry. Educate your client. You don't want to be stuck having to have these discussions with your client 30 days before. Pick up the phone, maybe even go meet them if depending, the relationship, the situation, 6 months in advance. Make sure it's not. You don't want it to be like, because now you're trying to pass your renewal, you're having that discussion. Like, set up your calendar, be organized, put those in, remind client X 6 months in advance.
I find that very interesting. Mm-hmm. Do you keep in touch? So let's say like.
Depends, man. Honestly, like sometimes not enough.
Like let's say it's a client that you value, you have a good relationship with.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're speaking to them, let's say, I don't know, from 5 to 10 times a year. Let's just say. Some more, but
way more than that.
But like, so when would you have this? Because I'm just trying to figure, like, if you're not gonna have it 30 days before the renewal, and you're saying it should be earlier than that,
has to be earlier.
When would you have it?
Six, halfway through maybe
the year.
Yeah.
So if you know a guy's gonna get juiced, you're gonna call him 6 months in advance
just to have a discussion.
Really?
Just educate him. Yeah, because think about it.
I don't do. This is interesting.
Because if you're having that conversation 30 days before, 45 days before,
It looks like you're rinsing them.
it looks like you're rinsing them. You got the bad news. You don't really want to work for it. That I'm not saying that's the case. Maybe you've worked. The client has no idea what you're doing on the back end. You have to educate them. You have to tell them, hey, guess what? I went to 15 markets. I spent X amount of time. You know what I did one time? I had a few. I still have big accounts, but I've had really big accounts in the past. And sometimes I would actually print out, or not, I would, I'll say print out because I don't know what the word is, but my activity logs.
This is something you learned from Claude. Yeah.
Show them how much work you're doing. And the thing is that like, you know, they need to appreciate that. And it's not a negative against the client. They just don't know. How do they know what you're doing?
So to answer the question, to basically help navigate through the hard market with your current clients, educate them, and just like be super transparent with them, and communicate with them well to let them know, and like to make sure that they're understanding where we're at in the market.
Yeah. Now maybe not everyone's gonna react well. That's possible, but like you just have to be honest with the situation, man, and know, like, look, you have your markets and you have your capabilities, you know, and like this is the situation. And I'm not moving you because you're in a good position and it could end up actually affecting you negatively. You're going to get a 20% increase. This is the reason for it. Maybe you don't tell them, you know what I mean? But just set the table for like, what you know is coming.
So the expectations, it's like, hey man, like you're going to get an increase.
So when you have that call, 45 days, whenever you're having your renewal discussion, they cannot turn around. Yeah, so purely you just and you as an owner, my advice would be like if you're speaking to your commercial brokers, like you have to kind of put that, like hit that home with them.
And what are you doing? So in the hard market, do you think it presents opportunities to basically go after new business?
I think it's tough because if you don't, you're selling yourself at this point, right? It's very difficult to be selling on price. Whereas in a soft market, you can really, you know, a lot of people sit back. A lot of brokers just sit back, and so you're going in there and you're selling on service, because, you know, for example, if you're going after a plumber, the odds of you finding a less expensive price, unless you have a program or something.
Yes. So I had lunch with this guy. He worked at Chubb. And Chubb, they work with a lot of big insurance brokers, right? So they work with Hub, they work with the Marshes, the Aons, and all that kind of stuff, BFL. And what he was saying now, because a lot of the guys, like a lot of the baby boomers, they're getting out of the industry. And, a lot of the baby boomer commercial insurance brokers are getting out of the industry. And so right now what's happening, he said that the clients that have been there for 10, 15, 20 years, the guy who originally brought in the account or woman brought in the account, they're gone. And there's so much sense. And there's not, typically not so much in the small market side, but on the mid market side. And he's basically just saying there's a lot of opportunities to come in, build a relationship with these types of people. But the only thing is, like, you need to have the markets to be able to do that, as you know.
You need to have the markets to be able to do that. So, like, I don't know if, like, hard, soft market, like, I don't think that really, like, plays into that so much.
Yeah, I would agree.
But I will say that, like, I agree with that. I've actually taken clients based purely off that.
And they just want to be taken care of.
I knew Tom. Tom's made up, but, like, I knew that was my broker. We had a great relationship. Tom's gone. Yeah. Now, so-and-so hasn't even called me. So-and-so just sends me an email. I don't know. And yeah, there's definitely
that, and like that's one part of it where it's like, yes, there's the machine. Like, I always think, like, look, because this is where I guess we can kind of like tie everything together now. So, like, on one side, on one side we have like the acquisitions taking place. But what's one of the downsides of basically having all these big acquisitions? It becomes less personal. It's impossible. A big organization, you can't possibly have that personalized service when you're a big machine. You just can't. You can't. And so while on the one side they have economies of scale, they're able to get more insurance markets. You basically have all the insurance markets there's a lot of advantages. There's a lot of synergies, a lot of cross-selling opportunities from like going on these buying binges
Of course.
of other
Yeah,
insurance brokers. But at the same time, I do like, I'm like, hey, you got to grow, you got to get big, or else you're gonna die, which I still agree with. But there's also the other side in my head where I'm kind of just thinking sometimes, but okay, I know that when these insurance brokers are getting that big, that they're gonna become less personalized. They're gonna offer a less personalized service.
Well, there's
And
the argument.
and like kind of, but this is interesting because, and this is where you're trying to fill that void. You're basically you're like, look, I don't want to be a massive multinational broker or whatever, but you want to be like a good sized broker, but a specialized broker who knows what the fuck they're doing and who can offer the service. You basically,
That's what I think
but
that's where my strong suit is.
but your vision is you want to be a specialized niche mid-market commercial insurance broker. Is that like nail on the head?
Nail on.
Yeah. That's what you strike me as too. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's my strong suit, you know. I don't think yeah, that's it. That's really it. That's 100.
All right, send the pot.
Man.
Yeah.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned how to do, you know what I mean? I mean, that's how I came up in this industry. My clients were all commercial clients. I learned how to deal with that. I learned how to be a good commercial broker.
Yeah.
So it's like, what am I going to do? I'm going to go and try to open a call center type of. I'm not knocking that at all. Like, that's a great business model, but that's not what I spent 10 years learning how to do. You know what I mean? I learned how to be a good commercial broker.
Yeah, call centers present. It's a different ballgame.
Other challenges and
Well, we run. We're essentially a call center. Well, we actually just, and I'm trying.
You do a great job with it though, and you grow.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of like, look, call center. You could make,
bro. You've grown from when you started to where you are now. Man, come on, you've grown a lot. It's extremely impressive, and I've told you that behind closed doors, and I'll tell you on this podcast, man. You've done great work on that, man.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
But I know I can't do that. I can't do what you've done with that. It's not my skill set, you know.
And your skill set is, you're like, and like it's interesting. You're exactly like you're like my father.
Exactly.
He did the same thing. He was specialized, niche, manufacturing, distribution, mid market. But he did it like really, he knew what he was doing. And his clients were super loyal. Like when he lost, he never lost. I remember once he told me at one point, there was a year that went by. They had, I think at this point, 300 clients. He didn't lose one client in the whole year. Not one client.
That's actually insane.
But most of the time, because sometimes you can lose by the switch insurance brokers. But there's other stuff too. They go out of business. They get bought out. And there's, you know what I mean? Like shit happens, right?
For sure.
And for 1 year, not one.
That's
every
awesome.
one of them renewed. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm like,
well, he's got some good stories too.
Yeah, he does.
And like, I like
think I'm gonna bring him on the podcast.
The G-Man, you should, man. Yeah, that guy's got a ton of experience. And like, yeah, I mean, I know it's like, yeah, maybe people are listening and looking at me and being like, all right, like, okay, buddy, you're 33. Like, how much do you actually know? But it's like on the back end, like, man, like, I've had a lot of big clients and I've done a lot of different insurances. I mean, we're talking insurance all throughout North America. We're talking insurance in Europe. I did insurance in the UAE. Like,
you had that one big account that
man,
taught
and
you a lot.
Taught me so much. And it taught me how to be also like time management, you know, like how to, because that wasn't my only client, you know, and this was all being dealt with myself. And so I look at it and you take this experience and how do you kind of educate other brokers that want to work with you? And I think that's my strong suit.
What would you say is your biggest weakness?
Man, there's a lot. I honestly, I think sometimes it's just like communication. Like sometimes.
Okay, can you give me an example?
Example, like I had a discussion with my partner, and like I don't think he understood where I was coming from, and instead of like being patient and understanding and listening and going through, I get straight to the. And I think it just kind of rubs where it's not like a negative thing. It's just like, that's just how I am. I'm kind of like a little bit too, like you said, too blunt. And that can be a little bit, I don't know. I guess it could be tough to deal with sometimes, you know, as a partner. And there's a way to kind of finesse your point across.
Got it. So you see yourself like for the dynamic that you have between yourself and Andre moving forward. I would assume that you probably expect for him to keep, not expect, I guess, but like where this is going, what it sounds like, he's going to continue to be the operations, the relationships that they have with the insurance companies, and you'll be more kind of like bringing in new business, kind of like back end numbers, be like, okay, Andre, this is where we're at. These are like the projections. This is like, okay, we can't spend money on this. We can't spend money on this. All that kind of stuff. Is he as aware with financially as you are when it comes to like spending money and stuff like that? Or?
He's aware. He's not as aware. I think he'd say that too if he was sitting right beside me, honestly. But you know, he's
it's something
full space cadet on it.
It's something that can be it's like something that can be learned as well. By the way, because like when I first started here too, I thought money grew on trees, and then I got some equity in the business. You know, 6 year or whatever it was. Like I started off, and then Gary, so my old man, gave me equity, and then actually didn't give me any equity. What I'm saying, he froze the shares, and then moving forward, he's like, "Hey, we'll split the rest 50-50 for the growth of the company."
Have to buy.
Yeah. But I thought money grew on trees until then, until you actually understand like a profit and loss, a P&L statement and stuff like that. I'm way more aware now, and it actually brings a lot of stress on me, to be honest. There's just like a lot of times where, you know, it's like, especially in the low cash flow months, it can get stressful. And when you're trying to grow,
you need those reserves.
What's very expensive to grow, it's very, very, very expensive.
Extremely.
Yeah. You need cash, and sometimes, you know, you make mistakes. Like last year, I went for the gusto. We did hire a bunch of people. We had good growth. We had 25% growth, but
which is great.
It's great, but it's highly inefficient. And it's just that we wasted a lot of money. I took a risk and it didn't pay off.
But you learned, and you're still here, and everything's fine. So like, you know, it could have gone a completely different way. Yeah. And you made out of it, and you learned a valuable lesson. And I mean, I think sometimes, you know, I have that kind of discussion sometimes with Andre and I, and you know, he comes from a big corporation, and I come from more of an entrepreneurial. So I do kind of really look at that, and I think it's important to have a strong reserve for those rainy days, because you know they do come, and we make mistakes. Shit happens, you know. And so now I think he's also like starting to pick up on that too, and I agree with you. You do learn.
What would you say? I think we've covered a lot here today, so we'll wrap it up.
Yep.
What would you say? So speaking to another, let's say, okay, what would you say to mini Robert Farrar? So Robert Farrar from 10 years ago.
Yeah. Say no to drugs.
Who's just starting off in insurance? What would you say to that guy?
I would say consistent. Be consistent. Stay focused, and fucking dude, believe in yourself, man. I think that's the confidence.
So confidence and consistency.
Confidence set me back 5 years. Not like set me back in the sense of like, in terms of, I would have, look, everything's fine, but I would have gone on my own 5 years ago had I had the confidence.
Take the risk.
Take the fucking risk, man. Believe in yourself. Why not? Bro, for what? Like, what are you waiting for? If that's what if in your mind at some point that's where you see yourself going, why are you even still talking about it? Just fucking do it.
And you know what? Like the saying goes, hindsight's 20/20.
Hindsight is 20/20. Of course, it's easier said than done. But the thing is that the younger you do it, the more margin for mistakes you have. If you're 25 and you're fucking up, like, who cares? If you're 45 and you're fucking up, it's a completely different ballgame. So it's like, if your goal is like, oh, well, you know, like I'm going to do this, I'm going to build this, and then I'm going to go out on my own.
You could also say, like, just let me play devil's advocate.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's say, so Rob, you're 33, and let's say Rob 5 years ago, you're 28. Would you have gotten financing to go help start the company? That's another issue.
Well, I mean,
right?
I can also say, I mean, because of Andre's intact ties.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm allowed to.
No, it's everyone knows that they invest in insurance brokers.
Okay.
It's all AM. It's you're good.
Had I not met him and we came, like, you know, we were a perfect.
Perhaps you wouldn't have gotten the financing.
I never would have even got. Who knows? You know?
Yeah, you're right. Who knows?
Who the fuck knows? And that's why, like, honestly, like, as much as I say, like, yeah, you know, like there's definitely like there's a lot of pros. Like with myself and my partner, there's the pros heavily outweigh the cons. You know, he has those relationships with those insurers. At 28, I'm probably not able to go get that financing. You're right, but that doesn't mean if that's what you want to do, and that's where you see yourself going. Honestly, you should just try, go for it. Believe in yourself, man. Honestly.
Well, I think
Or work for Fidelis.
That was good. That was good. I think that concludes I think that concludes our meeting. And so once again, Robert Farrar, co-president.
Thanks for having me, man.
My
Thank you.
pleasure.
This is a lot of fun.